how you're feeling in the moment, if you turn towards 86% of the time, you have that 95%, not 95%. Yeah, that 95% of...
Somewhat of a high percentage.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, yeah.
So they also looked at people who are depressed, majorly depressed. They turn towards, they'll admit their depression at 32%. And according to his research, 35% of turning towards usually results in divorce. So...
I can believe that.
So, in my opinion, I feel like if we gave up some of those alpha male traits and recognize and talk to our partner saying, hey, I am depressed right now. This is what I'm going through. Like, can you relate? Can you help me? Can we work through this together? That the partner would be more willing to sacrifice her needs and her wants as well, because she feels that closer emotional bond towards you. Now, you might say you're losing your alpha male traits. You know, you're becoming a beta male. But sometimes being alpha male, you need to learn that, I mean, in a sense, you don't have to hide your depression. You don't have to hide how you're feeling, your emotions. Because by revealing that, she will see more of you, and she will have more of that trust and more of that commitment, seeing you can show a sign of weakness.
Interesting. Okay. So going off that point, so here's where kind of the alpha traits come in from, right? So why don't we kind of go a little bit deeper with this? I think going a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole, we can kind of investigate a little bit more on how we can kind of problem solve through that. What do you think, right? So when it comes to the depression, how do you think women handle stress and depression? Do you think they handle it equally as how men handle it, or differently?
I'd say differently. They do have, in my opinion, I don't have the research for this, but they tend to rely on their friends, their family more than men do, because the alpha male, he doesn't want to share how he's feeling with his friends or family. He has to feel the need to keep that in, stay strong, and, you know, hold things together for both of us, for both of them.
Tell you the truth, that's where I think our first disagreement comes in, and fair, of course. I think what a lot of alpha males tend to do is, I think they do open up about their emotions. They're just very choosy about who they open up their emotions to.
Yeah,
so
agreed. This
is what we talk about on the podcast. So, and gentlemen, this is for you guys. This is why I tell you, the Unplugging tells you, you have to have a good network. You have to have a good network of friends, men who are going to help you grow, who understand your hero's journey. So when we're speaking to people who have never gone through that hero's journey, or have gone through our obstacles, our challenges, they can't really be empathetic towards us. So if I were to go up to, let's say, somebody who, if I go up to somebody, let's say I'm a rich billionaire somewhere around there, but then I go up to a homeless guy and tell him, oh my God, like, I don't know how I'm going to build all this money again. Like, I was kind of betting that this was going to work out with my business. It didn't go through. I can't really expect the homeless guy to give me good advice on that. So this is kind of the reciprocation, the equivocal, the quintessential example of, you got to be choosy about who you ask advice from and who you open up to. Yeah, that person, he might just listen to me. He might be a good-hearted soul. He might be very earnest about listening to me and my problems, but ultimately, he's probably not going to give me the best advice possible.
Yeah.
So if I talk to somebody, let's say you and I are billionaires, you probably already went through those derogatory objections where it's like, I bid on something, maybe I bought a house, maybe I lost my business, or maybe my business partner kind of robs me, and the same thing happened to you. You can be empathetic towards me because you've already gone through that journey. You've already gone through that obstacle. And if I see that you've already found a problem solution to it, like you solved the problem and you came back from it, you can be empathetic with me and say, I got you, man. Look, it sucks, I get it, but the truth of the matter is, you gotta man up. You gotta man up. Things happen. If something happens, you got to get up, conquer, and just kick butt. Whereas if I go up to, this is where the females come in, if I talk to a significant other about that, and this isn't to knock her down or anything, but I don't expect her to understand my journey. I don't understand her to understand all the battles, all the issues I've had to go through. Because what we talked about heavily on this podcast, and I think I've said this maybe on the first or second episode, women care more about who crosses the finish line. They don't care about the race itself. So it's kind of like, if you're gonna go fishing, who are you gonna ask? The fish who are getting caught by the fisherman, or the fisherman catching the fish? That's kind of what it goes down to, you know. And again, this isn't to knock down women. I'm not saying that it's impossible for them to give us some sort of advice, but I have to be pragmatic. Men have to be pragmatic, and people just have to be pragmatic in general to say, if I'm going to get advice from somebody, or if I'm feeling depressed about something, or if I need to talk to somebody who's gone through that hero's journey, that dark path, I need to speak to somebody who's gone through that already, so I can feel that there's someone behind me. There's people within my networking, so they can get me out of this dark hole that I'm in, and I can progress forward. Those are just my thoughts on that. Of course, I'm sure you probably have different opinions or thoughts about that, but please go ahead.
I do agree that men, we should build a stronger network of people that are like-minded, people that share that same dreams of success, people that have been through the things we've been through. I do agree with that. I also think you should open up to your partner as well as somebody that's in your circle. Even if they don't have a solution, you know, just you bearing that out to them versus hiding that, not really talking to them, not showing that, then they feel more distant. And then, so Gottman's method, you have two tiers that hold the house together. It's commitment and trust. So when they call it turning away from your partner, that commitment doesn't feel the same anymore. That trust, you know, how can you trust somebody that is hiding something from you, that's not open about its feelings? And so what happens, they turn towards other people that might have more of that trust, that might have a more commitment to that process. But I do agree, as men, we should have a stronger core circle of people that are like-minded.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you think most relationships fail because men fail to open up to their significant others?
I think it's a factor. I don't think it's the main reason, but I think it is a factor.
Do you think women complain that men are not being more emotionally open about certain things within their relationship?
Yeah, I do believe that.
It's funny because the thing is, what a lot of women tend to have, they have this whole stigma where it's like, I want men to be more open about their feelings. But then when we give them what they want, when women finally get this guy who are going to be very open with their emotions, they tend to step back more.
It backfires.
So it totally backfires on them. So I've always followed this notion to me where it's like, whenever we give women what they want, they tend to not want it anymore. And it's kind of like that. If you kind of look at things in life too, like when women are given things, most of the time, at this case, they tend to not appreciate it as much. Right? You remember kind of like back in the day, we wanted female sports like the WNBA and all these leagues. Now that we have the WNBA, hardly anybody watches it.
Yeah.
When we gave women the right to vote, a lot of them still don't even care about voting.
So I'll counter that, saying this year, and it's mainly due to that one chick, I can't remember her name. She was a first-round pick, got drafted to whatever team. They have the highest ratings right now of all time. Mm-hmm. I mean, speaking strictly of WNBA, they have higher viewership, higher income. Like, this is their time right now. So I do agree, past years, it's been fluctuating. I wouldn't say it's gone down since we established WNBA. Mm-hmm. I think they just needed a good start. They needed not publication. They needed that viewership to see, you know, the drama of the first round pick who nobody likes. Now she's fighting with all these people. Like, that drama has got it up to where it is.
Yeah, and you see, that's kind of the kicker too. And when it comes to propaganda, drama, or obstacles or substances that kind of kick certain things through, that's all fine and dandy. To me, it's very subsidiary, where it's very limited. It might be just kind of the kick, but then how long is that kick gonna last? You know what I mean? Yeah. And a majority of the WNBA is subsidized by the NBA as well. The reason why they're pretty much still alive is because the NBA subsidizes for them. If that didn't happen, that would be a completely different story.
It happened with FIFA as well.
Yeah, and then we had female football as well. Remember that? Is that still a thing?
Football?
Yeah, yeah. But it was very sexualized though. Like, they were very revealing.
Like bikinis and bras and like that was bad.
Yeah, that didn't last.
Yeah,
that didn't last. So and again, like, I would like to see female sports thrive. I really would. But at the end of the day, the point here, basically, the reason why I brought all this up is because usually when women are given, this is the point, when women are given what they ask for, they tend to not appreciate it and they tend to not respect it. Whereas, as we talk about with masculine values here, when men listen too much to women, when they pedestalize women so much, at first, I made a story about this actually today, where it might feel all fine and dandy at first. Wow, look at all this. But we talked about this before, and this is something that Dr. Orion talked about a lot. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a psychologist, I believe. He helps out a lot with relationships. He was on Fresh and Fit as well.
Yeah.
And basically, he talks about how roles and positions are in relationships for the most part for them to be successful. And if you've heard me say this before on the podcast, women like to feel all the colors of the rainbow. You heard that one?
Yeah.
I made that one myself. I'm proud of that one. I made that one.
Nice.
And and I'll test you on this one. So women like to feel all the colors of the rainbow, right? Except one color. What is that color?
You tell me.
Boredom. Women do not like to feel bored. The moment they are bored, it's a wrap for the guy immediately because they have to be stimulated. So we have an adorer and an adoree, right? In order for the relationship to fully sustain itself, because we understand, let's break it down actually. Who do you think needs to be more emotionally stimulated in the relationship in order for it to work, men or women?
Yeah, women.
Okay. Who's more needy, men or women?
Women.
Who needs their criteria to be filled out more? Well, actually, who has a longer criteria for them to want an ideal person in the relationship, men or women?
Women.
So would it be fair to say that in order for them to stay engaged, they have to feel more emotions and to feel like they have a prize and to feel like they have the man in the relationship in order for them to give more and to be satisfied in the relationship?
So I'll counter that and said, you mentioned, what was it? Emotional. The first thing you said, I can't remember what it was.
They need to feel, who needs to feel more emotionally stimulated, men or women?
Okay. So you're saying that if you give them that emotional need, that they're going to back off.
So here's what I mean. So emotionally stimulated. So women want to feel happy. They want to feel excited. They want to be silly. They want to even be sad or even angry at certain points. But when women are given just one constant emotion over and over again, which it could either be happiness, it could be disappointment, it could be whatever, but they're not feeling different emotions, they don't feel invested in the relationship. How do we do this? You're probably wondering. I'll tell you what not to do. What we tell men, even women in relationships, is the only time you should live with your significant other is if you're married and have children. No more than that. If you start living with them, you become very predictable in the relationship. She now knows, as a man, we'll talk from the man's perspective, right? Mm-hmm. She now knows where you are constantly, 24/7. You're either at home all the time, she sees you all the time, she eventually develops boredom for you. So when you're not making yourself scarce, you're not giving her what's called competition anxiety. So what that means is when you're giving her something that's called competition anxiety, she's constantly pining for your love, for your attention. If you're someone who's a go-getter, that you're striving, you have that glitter in your eye, that's not her, but it's you chasing excellence, trying to put a dent in the universe and you trying to become great. Because the woman understands, if she's intelligent, if she sees you striving, growing in the world, she's benefiting off that. But at the same time, if she knows that you're not at home with her, you're making yourself scarce, you're not seeing her all the time, you're only seeing her maybe a couple of times a week, possibly even one time because you're just that busy. But also other women, because you're a desirable guy, are also trying to get you to commit to them or giving you attention, and she sees you around them. That builds competition anxiety. So now she has to work more in the relationship. She has to thrive more in the relationship to ensure that you stay engaged with her. When you do that, that's what keeps her engaged. And it keeps her wondering, oh, okay, good. He's working, he's doing all this, but other women want him, but I know he's committed to me, but the fact that other women want him, I have to be sure that I'm at the top of my game. I have to make sure that I'm the woman he wants. I can't get lazy. I can't start goofing off and hanging out with other guys. I can't start posting social media pictures, provocative pictures. I have to continuously be that ideal man, that woman, I'm sorry, I have to continuously be that ideal woman for him. Otherwise, he's gonna go off looking for strange, and I'm not going to be the woman who he's gonna give that commitment to. That's competition anxiety. When she's constantly saying, oh, Okay, I can barely keep this guy, basically. You know what I mean? That's how women continuously stay engaged in relationships. But if you're there all the time, predictable, you're giving her all the attention in the world, you're pedestalizing her, you're giving her too much love, she eventually backs up. That's what I mean.
Okay, and what you said makes sense.
It's a lot of
But
work.
Uh,
what happens?
There's a lot going on with that one. Scenario based and things like that, yeah.
So what happens when you are in marriage? How
Now,
do you keep that interest? How do you work towards it? I think it's the man's role, even when she basically is complacent, to keep that energy up, to keep it interesting, to find different ways and work hard to make her still crave to want you, to see that you're growing, so she wants to grow with you.
that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. So and this is for the married men now who are still kind of wondering, because you know what the fact is also? We still have men, and as unfortunate of me is to say, because we do have some malevolent people out there, there are men in marriages, and they're sexist marriages. It's terrible. And a lot of them aren't really getting what they want, and they're dissatisfied. To counter that, really, the goal is to maintain attraction, right? So the competition anxiety in which you and I have talked about already, that's how we're keeping them engaged. When they're not married and have kids, right? How do you continue that I guess that's your question here. How you continue that is when you're in a marriage, you still have to be a go-getter. You still have to grind. You still have to become better, attain assets, build businesses, network. You still have to do a lot. That does not stop. It does not stop even in the slightest. And of course, the woman, she still has her roles. She still has to be the caregiver. She still has to be the home builder. She still has to continue doing what it was she was doing prior to the marriage. So, and the man keeping himself scarce. When he comes home, of course, he's taking care of the kids. He's prioritizing them. He's still with his wife, giving them love and attention. But he's still, when it's time to go out, it's time for him to go out. But the moment he finds a way to be complacent, to not grind, to not become better, to not chase excellence, to not network, to everything that I basically stated, that's when he becomes predictable. I stated in our podcast, and this is for everybody, ladies and gentlemen, as I said probably, what was it, like on the 4th episode? Predictability creates boredom. Mystery creates excitement. Okay, did you ever hear me say that? Yeah. So it's the mystery. Women want mystery. So even when you're just vetting her, right? So we go with the vetting process. It's 6 months, sometimes even a year, where you're not calling her every day. You're not texting her every day. You're still making yourself scarce. One of the key factors is keeping yourself scarce, because if you're constantly with her all the time, you become predictable. Predictability creates that boredom. So when she constantly sees you working and grinding, she's not going anywhere. And I think you and I have had this like one-on-one conversation before, where you're constantly becoming better. She sees that you're a catch. Women have to look up. They have to look up to the guy. But if they're looked up to, and I said this in my story earlier today, you're robbing them, ladies and gentlemen, you're robbing them of their ability to give emotion to the man. When the man is giving them the emotion, you're taking that ability to give that emotion to you. Now you might say in your mind, well, I'm giving her emotion, I'm giving her happiness, she should reciprocate that back. You could say that, absolutely. But if you're constantly giving it to her over and over again, to the fact that she doesn't even have to work for it, she appreciates it much less, and she respects it even less. So keeping the scarcity, keeping yourself busy, and making sure you're grinding, you're focusing on you, focusing on the growth, that's where it keeps her engaged. That's where it brings the excitement, and women are attracted to that. That's where the attraction comes in. And we even pulled up studies as well, where when women see you surrounded by other women, you don't have to be surrounded, but if you're attractive to other women, it's social proof. Women need social proof. It's women who don't need social proof from themselves. So it is you who needs the social proof from the woman. So if she sees you with a bunch of women, that you have good networks, you have good assets, you're a go-getter, you're making a lot of money, you're a big name out there, that is social proof for you, for the woman. But a woman doesn't need that. And we even have a study later on, if you'd like to see it, where men don't care about women who are ambitious and industrious. They don't care about that. Because if you're the go-getter, you're the breadwinner, you're the one basically conquering the world, we don't need that from the woman. That's like basically saying you have a glass of water and then someone comes up and says, hey, you want a glass of water? No, I have one already. I don't need another one. I'm good. And that can be, you can make 1,000 examples off that as well. But I'll leave it to you now. I'll give you your turn here. I don't want to talk too much on here. I want you to have a chance to respond on that.
I do want to close it out, but I agree. Men need to be the go-getters. They need to keep pursuing their businesses, keep pursuing leadership, to keep them interested. To, you know, you have all these things. Women are recognizing you. They're noticing you. She wants to keep up. She wants to work hard, but you can still talk about your emotions. You have to work a little bit harder, which a man should do anyways.
Right. I think when it comes to the emotions part is, let's say, God forbid.
I'm gonna disagree, but yeah, keep on there.
Well, Chris, if you'd like to step in, please. Like, it's totally fine if you want.
have to show any emotions, really. Like, not like, you know, like
So-
open up kind of shit. Like, oh, you know.
So I think that
I'll say my point after you guys go.
okay, I think that you can be a leader, you can be a go-getter, you can do all that, but if you don't show a little bit of emotion, she's gonna go somewhere else for that.
I mean, you gotta show love. That's true, but like, you don't have to show like any weakness. That's something. That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I feel like women being the nurturers, they see a little bit of weakness and they want to nurture you. They want to be there for you.
Yeah.
That grows that bond even
That's what
stronger.
they think. But then they see you as a weak man, and then they don't want you anymore.
I don't see that. And there's a Gottman method. There's a whole book of research that disproves that.
Proves it. Okay. You got it with you, or the USB?
Dude, I have the USB. You can pull it up.
USB.
Pull it up.
Well, are you guys done with your point? Or
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, here's, I think, where my disagreement comes on in. Only with one of your points. Everything else I can come back to and such. But the point where women go off and look for emotions, I think that's incorrect. The reason why I say it's incorrect is women don't go around looking for other men who are going to open up to them. They look for leaders. They're not looking for men who are going to break down all the time. Now, when it comes to, like, let's say, God forbid, a family member dies and you show emotion, that's fine. That's totally fine. Because it's scarce. It's very prompt in its time, right? It's not all the time. Now, can you imagine if every single week there's a problem that happens and then the woman sees you crying on the bed, depressed, oh, I don't know what's going on here, oh my God. That might be okay once or twice, but then if it happens constantly, women are not aroused by that. They're just not. They're turned off by it because now they don't see you. This is kind of, I think this is what Chris was trying to say. He's just not saying it the way I'm saying it.
Right.
So if it happens due to a certain situation where it doesn't happen all the time, I can see where there might be merits to that. Where it's like, oh wow, okay, so he's not like trying so hard to keep his emotions in check like that. I know he's keeping his emotions in check, but I see he's only doing it when it's necessary. Versus him just outright spewing it, you know what I mean? So to her, it's not ubiquitous. It's more just, it's more rare. It becomes rare when something like that happens, right? So that's where I think the control comes in. Whereas women, they're more in tune with their emotions. At least they don't know how to control it too much. So if something happens, they get angry, they cry, and then we're expected to calm them down. But if it's the other way around, it doesn't work that way because women and men look for different things. Women look for men who are emotionally in check. Men look for women who are going to follow them on their journey. That's basically what happens, right? And even if something like the parenting happens, right, where they're there saying, I'm sorry that your mother passed away or this, that, I'm so sorry, and then the guy gets over it. But if he obsesses over it, then that does eventually become a problem for the woman. Eventually.
Okay, so
I don't know if that helps this case out, but I kind of wanted to draw a bridge there.
I think where we might be able to meet in the middle, I did mention turning towards 86% of the time.
Yeah.
Marriages fail 33% or lower. If you can find that balance of opening a conversation, but not every single time, that would be 100%. At that point, your boundaries are overextending. And I agree, she gets bored. But if you could find that balance between 33% and 86%, according to the research, you can have a happy marriage.
Right. Now, so I think that's where our bridge is drawn. I can agree with that. Now here's the thing also, because we're talking about the reasons for marriages ending in divorce. What's our current percentage right now, you believe, that marriages fail in divorce?
The current percentage?
Yeah.
I'd have to pull up the data. I might have it right now.
Well, while you look for that,
Around 50% or something?
it's between 50 and 56%.
Yeah,
Right, for
Yeah.
male and female.
Yeah, male and female.
Yeah.
Now,
Can we talk about the male and male and the female
Hey.
percentages.
I only have the heterosexual
I
one.
think the female percentages is probably like, if I remember right, it's like in the 80s or something like that.
I believe.
And it's female.
Yeah, women,
Yeah, I can-
women
yeah.
are good at marriages.
Yeah.
And male to male is like 15 or 20%.
Yeah, because they're the more stoic ones.
Yeah.
See, and gentlemen, so
So women are the problem, not men. Throwing that out there, but go ahead.
So, and ladies and gentlemen, like stoicism is a big factor here. We've spoken, I don't know how many times, almost a casualty here. so in the backstage of this one, right? So, stoicism is a big factor here, gentlemen. Okay, women expect men to be stoic at all times, and Chris and I were talking about how there are going to be some scenarios where you can sparingly choose to open up to the woman in certain scenarios. If you overly do it, where it becomes an overabundance of emotions. See, women don't want to see a reflection of themselves. Like, think of it like this. If she puts a mirror in front of herself, she knows she's neurotic. She knows she's emotional. She knows that her decisions are heavily based on how she feels. When she puts a mirror in front of her and sees herself, she's probably a little turned off by that. She's going to be even more turned off when it's a man doing that. When it's a man who's a spitting image of that.
They see weakness.
And this goes to the same thing when it comes to, and I'm sure you could probably agree with me. We can probably laugh on this one actually. So we're getting off topic a little bit. That's okay. We'll jump on this and come on back to the reasons with divorces and such.
Yeah.
The alpha females, right? I'm sure you've probably heard of that a whole bunch of times.
Yeah.
So as we talked about before, and again we could pull up a study maybe later on, where men aren't desiring women who are industrious or ambitious. That's not something they're looking forward to. Why? Because we're the ones who are already doing that. Men and women look for things that they're missing in relationships. They're not looking for something they already have. Now, there are similarities. Like if they want a family, that's a similarity. They want, maybe they're Bible people, they believe in theology, they believe in Christianity. That's something, right? Because there's a lot of Christians, definitely some Judaism, some Buddhism that helps out with a lot of marriages, especially. That's why China's really good when it comes to that, because they're multicultural. Buddhism is the biggest one, but they're multicultural and then very open with different religions.
Yeah.
So they're very successful with that. But regarding that, when it comes to like the alpha females, if you want to call them, or they call themselves that, what they'll always say most of the time is, oh, well, men are intimidated by us. It's like, we're not intimidated by you guys. It's because we don't want, as the same coin, the same side of the coin, as I said, that women don't want a spitting image of themselves from the man. Men don't want a spitting image of themselves with the woman. So when men, like you and I, along with Chris, when we're go-getters, we're industrious, we're trying to become big in this world, what happens? There's a process. I think Aisha was here when we talked about this. We develop type A and type B personality traits. We're very aggressive. We're disagreeable. It's our way or the highway. We're going to do it this way, or it's no man's land after that. We tend to be more of a headache to people, and people don't want to deal with us most of the time, especially when it comes to negotiations and we're having big deals. It happens in real estate. I try calling people. They don't want to talk to me because I don't agree with certain principles, right? Now imagine the woman being like that, your significant other. It's probably not a good deal, right? Because you're already like that. You're going up to say, okay, I didn't ask for a man, basically. Just like when the woman sees the spitting image of a woman who's like her, she's gonna say, well, I didn't ask for a woman. I'm asking for a man. So we want different things. So when we fail to give each other those things, and we talked about this in our previous episodes, like the male strategies, the male mating strategies, were you able to see that one?
Not yet.
Check that one out, it's pretty fun. And then the female strategies, I go into very deep detail, science, even back in history on like what our true mating strategies are, and it's still a thing. It's not outdated at all. It's a biological hardwiring. So when people ignore it, it backfires on them. But back to basically, do you want to add anything onto that one before we move on?
I think we can agree in the middle where there needs to be a percentage. And if the guy gives too much emotion, not good enough. If the guy doesn't give any emotion, she's going to look elsewhere. But I think if you meet in the middle, like you said, the important stuff that matters, you do come to her for that, then it may make the relationship more successful.
If it comes to like family matters, I would say, yeah. And I think to add on to what you're saying is, I do think men show emotion to women. I think that's a small disagreement I have. It's just if it's crying, if it's being depressed, things like that, that's not what women want to see. I think men in general, we're not scared, especially if we're the alpha ones, in my personal opinion, and from what I've seen and just how I am in my relationships, a little bit of an anecdote, is if I go up to my significant other, I tell her that I've had a rough day, I'm not going to cry, complain. I'm going to say, yeah, you know, honey, it was a really tough day. It was productive. It was a very challenging day. I'll admit I was caught in a little bit of a pickle, but you know what? I handled it. I dealt with it. I'm good to go. Versus if I go, oh my God, it was so bad. I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Oh my goodness. And I just look kind of pathetic from there. You know what I mean? Women don't want that. They don't want to see that, especially in a high numerical amount. It's not good for them. So that's my point on that one. I don't know if you and I still can come up to that agreement on that. Not that we need to, but it's the bridge or the gap that's kind of being drawn there. But I personally think from what you're telling me by your admission, it seems like you're agreeing more to that versus disagreeing or finding something else out of that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then we can close this topic. I do want to say one last thing. I believe you'll agree with me. People that are dealing with major depression, fitness is better than antidepressants.
I can agree, yeah, absolutely. And we have many women right now. Like 1 in 4 women right now are on antidepressants. It's horrible. So it's 25% of them, or even more if we even look at that. So they're on some sort of a serotonin stuff or dopamine, anything like that to help them kind of help with the depression and things like that. Oh, you got something on there?
It's real quick. On depression.
Yeah.
Long-term depression, people that have been 5-10 years more. 66%. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
That's all right.
So, out of this survey, which also I can post later, 30% of people that are on long-term antidepressants feel worse depression. 73% withdrawal effects. 71% sexual problems. 64% emotionally numb, and 63% weight gain.
Yeah. I can, even if the numbers are somewhat off, which I don't think they are, but even if they are, it's just going off by what we know about female nature. It's I wouldn't say common sense, but it's happening. It's definitely happening because, as I mentioned before, 1 in 4 women are on some sort of antidepressant. We are now at a higher rate of female unhappiness. We've given them what we wanted, just like how I said. Feminism has given women this somewhat arbitrary line of empowerment, but it's not really empowerment because we give them what we want, we give them rights, and yet they're still unhappy. So that's where it kind of brought me into that topic that we were talking about, that when women don't have to work for certain things, they tend to appreciate it a whole lot less. When men pedestalize, they appreciate the man a whole lot less. But we talked about that already. The other thing we were talking about here is the reasons for divorce, right? So the last thing I left off on before we jumped on the alpha female stuff, what percentage or who initiates divorces more, men or women?
I'd say women.
What percentage?
Do not have that. Don't have that data, but
it's okay.
I can find it.
No, it's fine. It's 80 to 86% of them actually initiate divorce. 90% of their college educated. So they're the ones pretty much destroying the marriage. And the top 3 reasons really is a lack of commitment, lack of funds, and infidelity. Those are the 3 reasons. The top 3, at least. Other reasons, of course, like abuse or lack of funds. Yeah, we talked about that.
It's definitely
So I find it very perplexing and peculiar for me where we have marriage vows. We have all these marriage vows. Yeah, probably have to take a little closer, right? Because I'm backing up now. Where we have all our vows. Do you think women follow their vows?
I think it depends per relationship. If you're asking me if there's a higher odds of women following their vows or not following their vows than men, I would say so.
So if women are initiating 80 to 86% in general of divorces, do you think most of those, if not all the women, are following their vows?
I mean, I think when a relationship gets to that point where things are rocky, things are not going well, women are more susceptible to not following their vows before they even get to divorce.
What are the vows? In sickest to health to healthiest, somewhere around there? From poorest to riches to...
I've never been married, so don't ask me.
So the vows basically is, in summary, no matter what happens, you're going to stick to the marriage. So the fact that women can just untie the knot no problem, especially if you have a license for marriage.
It goes until death do us part.
Till death do us part, yeah. And so a lot of these women who are initiating divorces, they're still alive.
Yeah.
So to me, just off rip, because of that vow that they made till death do us apart, they're not untying the knot till death do us part. They're untying the knot till alive do us part, basically, not death. So
Feminism destroyed marriage, really.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, and that's the stigma in which we have now. This is a battle that we have, right? That's why even on this podcast, we tell men, listen, if you're gonna get married, I don't know if you and I had a conversation about this already, or you've even heard my podcast episode about this. If a man is going to get married, take heed on that. Look into the state's laws on marriage, because you'd be surprised. Like, follow a marriage attorney or a marriage lawyer. Go up to them with your significant other and ask, okay, what are the laws here in Florida? Because I know we're a no-fault state. That's one thing you have to consider. So, meaning if you're in a marriage, she could just cheat on you. Imagine you open the door to your bedroom and you just caught her with another guy. She could just say, oh, things aren't working out, call it no fault, and she could just go up to the door and say, yeah, I just feel empty in this relationship. That's it. That's all she needs to say. Untie the knot, and she takes all your assets, well, not all of them, but like a percentage of it, and you basically screwed yourself over heavily, because this one just decides to untie the knot whenever she feels like it and not follow her vows. So if you're going to do that, definitely look into a marriage lawyer or attorney and ask, okay, what are the laws here? Are they very harsh or hostile towards men or not? And they will tell you, yeah, they're not great here. If you're going to get married, maybe married in, I think Europe has good marriage laws, as a matter of fact, because of the custodian laws. They have good custodian laws from what I've heard.
I don't know about America, but yeah.
No, America's not great.
America.
Yeah. So this is again something for you gentlemen as well, and Chris as well. If something like this happens where you're kind of opening yourself up to the idea of marriage, consider that. Because at the end of the day, you got to keep yourself protected. Now, is the woman going to give you some lip and backlash? Why do we need to see a marriage lawyer? Because it's to protect you. They're protected all the way. Don't you think it's fair you should stay protected as well?
Yep.
Of course, absolutely, because you've worked. You've worked hard to get to where you are. Kind of be a shame for all of it to just disappear just because of a decision that's made, not on you, but by them. Just easy. Oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Therefore, I take blah, blah, blah. That's basically what it boils down to. So it's a scary process. It's scary. Do you have anything you want to add on to that?
I do think, and something you mentioned, it comes full circle. If the woman is bored, she will cheat. But if you are the best man you can be, you look like other women are interested and attracted because of what you've done as a man, then the odds of her cheating are less.
Absolutely. And we talked about this before, my man. All right, good stuff.
Like, we circle back, we agree on something.
I think we agree on a lot of things. And by your admission, you said you agree with me 90% of the stuff. 90%. It's probably 89.9 now.
It varies depending on topic, but
Yeah, it'll vary. No matter what, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I do want us to agree and disagree on certain things. I don't want you to force yourself to agree or disagree on certain
I
things.
think we met in the middle on certain things.
No, of course, absolutely. So now that we've talked about that, it's, be careful, guys, with marriage, okay? It's generally not a good deal right now. Marriage laws have to change.
You gotta do a prenup if you ever think about, getting married.
Do a prenup, and even a postnup is going to be beneficial, because the thing is, from what I hear with prenups, if you've been married to somebody for, I think, 5 or 10 years, somewhere around there, give or take, the judges will look at the prenup and say, well, you've been married for like 10 plus years. This prenup is kind of nothing now.
No, it still holds. You gotta watch the lawyer I told you about, James Sexton.
Okay, I'll watch him.
Yeah, look him up. He's so good, and he's so like pro prenups, like everything. Prenup.
Yes, it's to protect us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's to protect us. And then if women are going to give you lip for this, they definitely will. Like, oh, why do you need a prenup? You want to know how you can counter that?
It's really,
It's very simple, actually. You just ask her, and this isn't like to attack her or anything. It's like we're using logic. But in a lot of cases, when women try to argue with you, one of the best ways to, if you want to go down that route, maybe win the argument with them, is to use their own logic against them. So here's what you do. Okay, so let's say you have a business. You're telling your significant other, right, or a girl. Okay, let's say you run a business. You have a contract with someone on there, okay? And you probably didn't even know it. But the contract in fine print says, that all this person has to do is untie the knot, just leave, and then he gets your car, he gets your house, he gets over 50% of your monetary value, he gets your stocks, he becomes a shareholder or the president, whatnot, all because he decides to untie the knot. How would you feel if you had a contract stating that all he has to do is walk away and he takes over 50% of your belongings?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's all you have to do. And she'll be like, well, that's different. No, it's not different, because you're trying to protect yourself. Why is it that it's fine for you to protect yourself, but why is it not fine for me to protect myself?
No, I agree. I'm with you on the prenup.
Yeah, the prenup, you gotta do it.
Sure.
Now, the other thing we can talk about here too is the social media. Yeah, that's the social media stuff, right? So I think you and I briefly talked about this some time ago. Right? It was a fun conversation. Now, I think with some other people who we've had on the podcast, we've had different thoughts. Well, actually, not really. We've had similar thoughts, as a matter of fact, when it comes to social media usage. We pulled up a small survey, a super duper small one. If you want to look at it, it's totally fine. It's titled. Did we show that to you actually when Aisha was here? I think we did, as a matter of fact. We showed basically a percentage of who uses social media more, right? Women use social media more with Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook. However, men use more of the business platforms such as LinkedIn. They use something else, YouTube, because they're promoting products, things like that.
Getting information.
Yes, yeah. So even in social media, we use them differently, right?
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the social media aspect, I think what we talk a lot about on the show is one of the biggest red flags is when women post provocative pictures of themselves. I think in one of our videos, like one of the three things, or the top three things that women just have to stop doing in order for a man to take them serious, especially if it's a high value man, right, is number one, they have to eliminate all the orbiters around them, meaning male friends, guy best friends, even ex-fiancés, ex-husbands, ex-whatever, out of the picture, entirely out of the picture. Number two, stopping provocative pictures. And number three, enough with the girls' trips, because we know what happens on girls' trips. It's different from guys' trips, and we can go over into detail on that if you'd like to. But your thoughts on women using social media, at least the platforms where they're seeking attention and validation, do you believe it increases women's value to the man, or it decreases their value to the man?
I believe as a, how do I say?
Say it. Say it.
A high quality man, it for sure decreases their value. But you do have these low quality men that, hey, I just want a one night stand, or I want somebody to sleep around when my wife isn't looking. Like, you know?
Sure.
But for high quality men, for men that work for their share and know their worth, yes. Degrading photos, we're not interested in that. We don't want a woman showing the world everything. Just be modest.
Absolutely. Yeah, because, and again, this comes back to the whole feminism movement, or even just like a supremacist movement we've got going on. So, as I mentioned before, I think this is left off on our last episode when Aisha was here. It's women who really call each other the H word or the W word or anything like that, the derogatory names. Men don't really do that. We try our best, I think, even when it comes to platonic friendships, if you want to call it that. We don't really call women those types of names. It's really women who shame each other when it comes to that. When it comes to social media, what men need to start doing, and I've always said when it comes to social media, it's like a woman's purse, right? You know the old saying, it's like a whole retro thing that you can judge a woman by the contents of her purse, right? You can learn more and make a judgment of a woman more when you look through her social media.
True. I do want to say something that's been disgusting me lately.
Sure. I'm gonna be disgusted too. Tell me.
I think you'll agree with this. So, these women rappers these days.
Nah, we talked about this on our last episode. Actually,
Yeah.
no, please, go ahead.
Oh man, like I can't even distinguish one from the other because they're just wearing nothing. They're talking about I'm not to see this, I'm not to see that. It's like when do you see guys, male rappers talk about, oh, I got a long ass stick, I want to fuck? Like it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. I mean, maybe 1% to 2%, like Little Dicky. I mean, he talks about his little dick, like that's his thing. It's still,
Yeah, man. The TMI is coming in on that one, right?
that's the feel, but yeah,
That's an excellent point that you're bringing up. We brought this up last episode, I believe.
Yeah.
We have bad role models for women these days. We really do. One of them for sure is Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj. Who's the other one?
What? The one?
She's kind of like Nicki Minaj.
Sexy Red or
Probably. I don't keep up with this shit, to be honest with you. I don't.
yeah.
I don't keep up with it too much either, but it's someone who I think she's a rapper also like Nicki Minaj. I forget her name. Cardi B.
Cardi B.
Yeah, Cardi B.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, So, and then they watch shows like Sex in the City, and I remember I had a story about this one time on my episode with one of my exes. We watched Sex in the City, and this was years ago for me, like maybe 4 years ago, somewhere around there, or 3. And I'm watching this show, and in my mind, you're watching a show in which promotes promiscuity. You're satisfied with this? How are you enjoying this? That tells you a lot about the woman, as a matter of fact. A whole lot. Because now, the thing is that what the unplugging tells men a lot is gentlemen, don't go by what she says or what she thinks. Go by how she moves, acts, and behaves. That's how we can make a deterministic value on what our presets need to be for enacting on women's behaviors. So if a woman comes up to you and she wants the commitment from you, of course, you've seen all these things. And then you say, look, she says, oh, look, I dig your vibe. I don't know if you're seeing anybody else. I want us to take it to the next level. I want us to be exclusive to one another. And then you say, okay, look, I dig your vibe also. But the thing is, I just can't take a woman serious who posts provocative pictures and especially is influenced by A, B, C, and D, or has promiscuous friends. I just can't take a woman serious like that, or has guy friends around orders. At that point, she has to make a decision. How badly does she really want you? She has to be able to sacrifice and get rid of the things that are going to hurt the relationship. And it's not crime. It's not wrong for you to say, look, I just want to make sure that there's no risk in my relationship, because the thing is with us, it's risk mitigation. For women, it's not like that. As we talked about also with our last episode with you and I and Aisha, men mold outside of relationships, women mold inside of relationships. So the fact that men have to strive, grow, be industrious, be ambitious, go through trauma, build, network, that's us molding outside of a relationship. But when women continuously go with bad behaviors and propensities, and they're not willing to get out of those propensities to secure a relationship, they're choosing not to mold inside the relationship or a potential relationship that they're about to have with a good man. And women routinely leave good men. Routinely. I can't tell you how many relationships I've seen and heard where the woman doesn't give anymore, doesn't put out, doesn't give sex, feels like she's better than the man, she's the leader, she's bossing him around, the man feels like it's not working, he doesn't know what's happening, and this is what's happening. This is what's happening when men don't assert themselves, and when they're not masculine, they don't understand their identity, their masculine identity, and they're not becoming the go-getters and the leaders we need them to be in order for the relationships to work. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I do. And I don't want to sidetrack. I do want to bring up an example. So I feel like Facebook, Instagram, all that, they are promoting women's degradation.
Okay.
Like, for example, I watch a lot of anime. That's on Facebook.
Yeah.
The AI, it'll generate some stuff. So looking through my reels, whatever, I see something on One Piece. I'm like, all right, cool. It went from the animation to this chick dressed as Nami in like this bikini, and I'm like, oh shit.
That's the girl from Naruto, I believe, right?
No, Nami, she's in One Piece.
Oh, no, yeah, One Piece. Yeah. I'm talking.
Like, here goes the algorithm. So of course, weeks later, I see all these women dressed as, in anime and, their cleavage out, all this stuff. Some of them, yeah. And like, the algorithm's already set. Like, I can't just get rid of that profile that Facebook and Instagram has already made of me. Mm-hmm. But what I do see is all these young kids that it's like heart emoji. Oh my god, I can't wish. I wish I want to be with you. Like, it's almost like grooming for these young kids. They see these chicks that are 18, 21, whatever range. Some of them might be underage, but it's almost grooming these younger kids to say, oh, I want this in my life. I want to be with this. before they even become adults, before they even realize how to become a high-class man and want a high-class woman.
Good thing you brought that. We have a study as well. I don't know if you saw this. It's one of our episodes where it was the teenage study. You remember that one?
Oh.
It was the teenage boy study that when they saw pictures of women who were like past 18 years old.
Yeah.
So there was a small theory. So we understand what men are naturally attracted to, and there's a study. I haven't posted it yet, but basically there's a study about how men prioritize the woman's body more than the face for attraction, whereas women prioritize the face more than the body. Even though the main attraction point for the torso is the shoulders, the broad shoulders, right? The 6.2 ratio we talked about on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
What I found very interesting with this one that we're talking about right now with like the young boys, right? Young boys, there was a study that was made of them looking at pictures, right? Who would you want to take on a date or maybe try to take serious, somewhere around there? And a grand majority of the young teenage boys, they chose the ones who were like past 18 years old because they saw fertility cues, right? So the small theory that was already disproven just off that study is, while men look, of course, for beauty, youth, fertility, and they want a woman who's peaking, right? Who's basically peaking between 18 and 24 years old. The fact that a young boy or a group of young boys, they're teenagers, they saw women who were showing fertility features like big breasts, the hip to waist ratio was favorable, and they saw features of the beauty, like there was lustrous hair, they had feminine faces. When they ovulate, they blush a little bit because there's a high level of estrogen going through their body, and there's a smell that goes around with their chest and their back. I explained that in one of our episodes. They fall for that more. They want women who are basically developed, right? And they're peaking. So I thought that was really interesting. So they don't go for like the same ages or things like that. So I thought that was interesting. But the kind of coming back to the Instagram stuff. So do you believe also if a woman posts pictures, because they're going to say, oh, what's wrong with me posting these types of pictures in a bikini with my butt showing first, and this pose where they show their butt like this and then they turn around like almost 180, somewhere around there, you know what I mean? Yeah. They look like that. Now, of course, in their minds, because they're sold on this perpetually bad ideology, where it's, if I do this, I'm going to get all the attention, I'm going to get all the likes, validation, this and that. But what they fail to realize is that none of those men are real options. They're not organic. They're not organic options. They're inorganic. And these are guys who are basically just going to want to sleep with them if they ever get a chance, but they wouldn't take them serious. So this is a mistake women make. Would you believe if women start posting more pictures of themselves, do you think in the long run, with their current relationships, let's say there's a guy that bought into that. He's kind of a beta male. He's kind of let her have her way, and he's leaving her to her own devices. He does that. Do you think in the long term that type of relationship is going to be fruitful?
No, not at all.
What are your reasons for that?
Because if they wanted attention before she got the man, I believe she's still going to want the attention once she's bored of the man she's with.
I think we have a study. I'm not too sure, but I'll kind of say a little bit of what this is. I might still be looking that up, actually. The study here, I'll go ahead and tell you, Chrissy boy. This one is going to be... it's on our Discord, actually. Yeah. You might not have downloaded that one, but that's okay. It might be. It's one of the more recent studies.
What's the name?
I have to see it.
Oh, you have to see it?
It's one of the recent ones. You'll see it. Yeah. So if you go to studies and statistics.
There you go.
Oh, look at that one. That's not it. The last one. The very last one at the bottom. There it is. Oh, yeah. Look at that beauty. Men lose attraction for their significant other when they see other women.
Oh, see, I thought you were asking for the reverse. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, so basically, while Chris is downloading that, I found this a very fascinating study. So, as we talked about on the podcast, Whoa. Oh, where did that come from? That's not the one, guys, I promise. But basically, look at this one. So the man lost attraction for the woman on that one. It's that one, yeah. Oh boy, that was a good one. Yep.
There you
It
go.
opens up a website instead of actually opening up the PDF. Yes. So I couldn't find the whole entire study, unfortunately, but it gives me the abstract, but clear and concise. So kind of looking at the highlights. So basically before the highlights, the men were shown pictures and even like newspaper ads of women who were attractive, or at least perceived to be attractive. When the men took some time to look at all these photos, the people running the experiment asked them, okay, after seeing these pictures, how would you now rate the person who you are currently with in a relationship? And going with our first highlight, consistent with early research has been done before this apparently, males exposed to physically attractive as compared with average targets rated their current relationships less favorable.
Yeah, that's not true.
So to me, I look at women, and we can look at the second one actually. However, females' evolutions of their relationships were unaffected by exposure to physically attractive males, but were lower after exposure to targets high in dominance. And so that's a different rate there. So basically, kind of coming back to the social media aspect, not only by your admission, and we concurred on this one, where it doesn't help them out in the long run, but it inherently damages their current relationship because now it doesn't work in their favor because other women are doing it. So when other women are doing it, and men, because that's why the porn industry is so successful, they're making way more money than the NFL, NBA, and I think the NHL combined.
Oh yeah.
You know,
It's huge.
they're almost a 10 billion, I think, no, 100, I think it's almost $100 billion company now. I believe so. Somewhere around there. Almost, they're reaching 9 point, something around there. I'll do the statistics again, but I think it's 10 billion. It's not, they're 9.6 to 9.8 billion per year now.
God damn.
Yeah. So it's a lot of money.
Wow.
So because the thing is, by nature, men want variety. We want variety. We want, if we see different women, it's like, wow, look at that. You know, like this is the variety. Now, the other thing we can look up here as well on our Discord is that women don't think like that. In fact, one of the main topics, I didn't think I was going to talk about this with you actually, but now we can, is I will say this right here.
Which part?
Both of these actually, the picture and the one right above it. We don't have, you can download the first one there actually while I'm talking to Chris about this one. I want to point out, and I might be the first person who knows who's going to say this now. Women, by nature, biologically, innately, by core design, they are not meant to be promiscuous. They are not meant to be promiscuous. Before we show this, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's one thing that women get pregnant, men don't. And
More paternal investment.
Yeah.
They have to choose carefully.
yeah, like you can have 5 guys that, or better example.
Yes. Hell yeah.
Five Guys. We've never been to Five Guys in a long time, actually. Oh my goodness. Oh, Five Guys. So the burgers actually.
Yeah, like if a guy has sex with 5 women, it's applauded.
Yeah.
If a woman has sex with 5 guys and gets pregnant for 2 or 3 of them, like your worth is gone.
You're gonna be going on the Maury show. That's what you're gonna be going. I've been watching Maury actually. It's so funny. Like, and, you know, I know it's fake and all, but like, it's even shows like that, whether it's like Jerry Springer or Maury, where they're doing those tests. It's not so far fetched to what happens in reality.
No.
It's really not. Like, that's actually real stuff that happens. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out too is, if men are able to have sexual access to women, it's not given to him for free. They have to work for it. So that's why it's applauded. That's why when men see other men doing it, it's like, hey man, well, I know he worked for it. Especially if it's like high networking, like for me, because we know that women are attracted to that. They're attracted to men who are ambitious, industrious, who have some networking, who have clout, fame, money, things like that. Women are attracted to that. So it's only natural for women to just kind of throw themselves on men like that. So of course he could be promiscuous that way because he's worked for it, he's earned it. Versus someone who is homeless or has a low-end job, has nothing going for him, he doesn't have that sexual availability. And women won't make themselves available for him like that. So we're not going to praise things like that. Whereas women, there's a little thing in the manosphere actually. In the manosphere, it's women sleep with who they want, men sleep with who they can.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more reverse. Not really, actually. It's changed when men become more high status. Because we've always said on this podcast as well, if we exclude the variable of high value men, it's actually women who control the sexual market. But when we include the 5 to 15% of the top tier men, they are the ones who truly control it. They're the ones being the homemakers. Let's put it that way. They're the ones sweeping around with all the women because they just can. They have access to it. They have availability. They have the power to do it. But the first thing I wanted to show here, we can show the picture first, actually. I thought that was
The study now?
the picture first before we do the study. Yeah, that good old lovely picture here.
Oh, yeah. Study pics.
Study pics. Oh yeah, look at all this stuff. The fourth one to the right. Yeah. Yep. And we can actually somewhat zoom in a teeny tiny bit here. Yeah, look at that. Now just kind of what's already inside the box here that I highlighted and such. So if we kind of just read a little bit here. Women's sexual fantasies, this comes with fantasies actually, right? Women's sexual fantasies in contrast often, well, let's go with the men's first, because in order to understand this is to understand the men's. When men fantasize about sex, we fantasize about different figures of women. It's never the same woman. It's usually, it could be one woman we saw at the gym, one we saw down the street, one we saw at our job. It's a variety constantly, because our sex drive is higher. We are the ones who want sex. It's not really women who want sex. Now we come here. Now you can see women's sexual fantasies in contrast often contain familiar partners. 59% of American women, but only 28% of American men report that their sexual fantasies typically focus on someone with whom they were already romantically and sexually involved with. And then emotions and personality are crucial for women. 41% of the women, but only 16% of the men report that they focus most heavily on the personal and emotional characteristics of the fantasized partner. And as one woman observed, quote unquote, I usually think about the guy I am with. Sometimes I realize that the feelings will overwhelm me, envelop me, sweep me away, anything else, or sweep me away. And then there's the citation there, Barclay of 1973 and such. So you see, like, again, it's more emotional stuff. So the fact that just this alone, the fact that women don't fantasize about multiple men, that's already one factor that they're not designed to be promiscuous, because they don't think about having sex with a whole bunch of guys like that.
Yeah.
Now, if we go on to the study now, here's where we show a little bit more on the evidence on that. Yes, it's a women lose attraction for their significant.
That's right here, right?
Oh, no, that's yes, this is the one. So we go down a little bit here. I didn't highlight too much here. It was just a...
Springer.
Now, just going off here, go up a little bit for the title. I want to see the title here. So, sexual regret. Another strong piece of evidence. This one's a very big study, actually. There were three studies made within this one. And each and every one of them goes over basically regrets. They ask questionnaires and things like that. Just to give you a brief summary of what to expect, and we'll kind of skim through this, right? Basically, in all the studies, women were asked, including men, do you regret more that you missed sexual opportunities with the opposite sex? Or do you regret more that you had sexual intimacy with a partner or such? If we come down here, we'll go with our first study. This is from 2011, actually.
I would have mentioned, I love that statistical number. It's 24,000. Great.
Yeah,
a good number.
it's a huge study.
I love the good number.
Like the third study, 24,000. Yeah, this was big. It was very, very big, and I'm glad with that type of sample size we were able to have a huge chunk. But coming down here to one of the graphs here, I have it already highlighted. You'll see it. You'll see it. Yeah, the first study, the participants, you'll see that it was one of the numbers. There was 200 something. Okay, so here we can look at this graph here. Okay, so coming up a little bit, figure one, where I have the green and the yeah. Can we zoom in a little bit on that actually?
We can, but we're gonna cut off a bit. Let's see.
That's fine. Are we okay with the zoom in and such?
Yeah.
Okay, so just kind of simply put here, so we can see on the left the regret intensity, and then at the bottom with the columns here, we can see the sexual actions, the actor, of course, the person implementing the action, and self-receiving it, okay? So if we look at the first two on the left, okay, we can see what's kind of in the light, the white is more of the women, and then the dark is for the men. The ones marked in white, we can see that they have a higher regret when they were the ones who gave sex and received sex. So women have more sexual regret than men. Whereas if we go now to the right, where it's mostly men, you see that men don't regret that. They why should they? They don't regret it as much. So we can see here when they give let me see, the opportunities, they're not the ones regretting it. They're more happy about that, right? So that's just one study there, and we can kind of go on. Let me see this actually. Regret intensity. Make sure I'm reading this correctly here. Okay, yeah. So given and then they gave. Okay, perfect. And then if we come on down to our second study, here's the same thing. Yeah, same exact thing here. So no different from the study there. Okay, here are some characteristics here. Here's where we get into a little bit more detail. The top one for women and the bottom one for men, just to categorize a little bit more. Let's talk about the women first. So table 1 here, most common regrets in women's top 5 list from study 2. Number 1, lost virginity to the wrong person. As we can see, 24% of women compared to 10% of men regretted it. That's one factor. So women heavily regret. Yeah, they lost their virginity to the wrong person. Number 2, cheated on past or present partner. Women regret it more. Relationship progressed too fast sexually. Women regret that more. Coming out to more sex with a stranger. Look at the bigger differences here.
Yeah.
Look at the huge differences here.
0. There should be 0.
You want it to be 0.
I mean,
yeah, I know, but this is going on. But we do have some men who will regret because maybe the girl had an STD or something. We don't know. You know what I mean?
I'm not gonna lie, I regret.
Yeah, we can understand that one.
This I understand. Like STDs, yeah.
Yeah. So the number 6 here, we can see sex with a stranger. Look at that one. 20% of women regretted that versus only 6%.
Yeah.
Only 6% of men. Sex with unattractive person, 17% women, 10% men. Sex with someone who faked a commitment, 17% regret from women and only 3% of men. Lost virginity too early, yikes, 15-1. And then one night stands, look at that, it's the same thing. They regret it more. They just regret it. So just going off the 3 sex that made me feel dirty.
Wow.
So even the ones that they feel dirty, they regret. Like, seriously, guys? Come on now. So even just off the graphs we show, we're going to show one more, actually. But just going off the 3 graphs from before, even this one, table of, like, the top 5 regrets, you can just kind of put 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 together. Women are not designed to be promiscuous because they regret it more. They just regret it more. They feel nasty about it because women by nature know that their commodity is purity. If they cannot sell purity to the man, it's game over for the most part. Now, the only way that they're going to be able to sell a man is if the man, maybe he doesn't have much offer himself and he's going to just take whatever he can. As we mentioned, men sleep with who they can, women sleep with who they want. So it becomes a big negotiation here. Men, same thing. Let's see here. Their categories were different, actually.
Inactions, yeah. Most of their tops are inactions. Look at that.
So this part, Chris, you can look at this if you want to, but what it is here is most of the categories I've highlighted are missed opportunities for sexual intercourse.
That's so true.
So men regret having sex. I'm sorry, men regret missing opportunities of having sex.
Right.
And but women regret having the opportunity to give intimacy, which is really that's where I mean, like they're just not meant to be promiscuous this way. And let me see here. That's pretty much it. Chris, he's pretty much already read through that episode. Do you have any questions about this, by the way? Before
No, I agree 115%.
That's pretty high percentage, right?
And it's scary because this. I think we're done. Let's look down a little bit more before we.
My relationships. And by saying my okay.
And for them to go off and find strange, whatnot.
All right, so you got another study here?
Oh, well, okay, this is it. Last one here.
Table 3.
My very last one to show for tonight, at least on this one. So this one's pretty simple, actually. I had a little note there, women are meant to. So we can see in table 3, regrets concerning most recent sexual actions. And I think this answers you asked about the marriage with gays and lesbians.
Yeah.
Look at this here. I didn't highlight them, but I highlighted gay men, bisexual men, lesbian women, and bisexual women on this. Just to throw one in there. They even went the extra mile to see what their regrets were. But highlighting, of course, the yellow being the men and the pinkish purple being the women. We can see here heterosexual men. So regrets concerning the most recent sexual actions and inactions reported. Okay. We can see the first thing for had sex for sexual men. 52% I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
52% versus 27% said glad I did it.
Right.
But then we look at neutral, 25-26, regret somewhat, 15 for men versus 27 for females. Regret very much, only a small percentage, 7 versus 20% for women. Now, if we look at past of the sexual enactment, this is going to be mostly for the men. Same thing. Look at this one. Men, low percentage, glad that they passed an opportunity, but look at women, they're more happy that they passed on sexual opportunities, possibly with men who they weren't truly attracted to. Right? We look at neutral, same thing, 21-23. Regret somewhat, 30. Okay, see the differences here? 30, they somewhat regret it. Women, not really. And then 13, because the purity, right? Yeah. And then regret very much, 13 for the men and only 3% for the women. So again, like 3 studies, including a bunch of graphs, including what we talked about social media and provocative photos. Women are not meant to be promiscuous. They're just not. That is a hill I will die on.
I mean, nobody's arguing, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. But I know we're going to probably have like a woman come up to us, which is fine, and say, oh, well, what's wrong with us being promiscuous? Because of this!
No, that's true.
Because of this! Because you guys regret it!
They're not designed that way.
They're just not. I think that's it right there.
Is it?
Yeah, that's about it. I know there's other graphs. I didn't highlight any more of those.
Okay.
So pretty much just going off those studies there, I know we kind of went off a lot on that one. There was a lot there. There was definitely a lot of information there. Yeah. But what would your advice be for women? If you were to give advice right now to women, what would your advice be when it comes to the usage of social media when they're involved in, if they want to call it LTR, a long-term relation?
Then we weren't just too sexy.
Good to have you on the show, my man. Good to have you on the show. Yeah, they're too sexy, man. Women ain't just too sexy. Yeah. So definitely, we had a study earlier today where we talked about how men.
Help me.
Oh, what happened?
I didn't do it. Just saying.
Oh, we didn't mean to, man. Post it again. So anyway, back to you, Chris. I want to give you the floor here. So what would your advice be to helping women out? And then I'll ask for your advice on men too, as well, because I do want you to give advice to everybody, especially when it comes to your knowledge and what we've seen already. How would you interpret all this?
I mean, I think it's clear as day. Like, women, just be humble. Live with your purity. You don't have to be promiscuous. You don't have to get all that attention. We are designed, men, to enjoy more purity. We don't want to see you be with a billion partners. We're not going to take you seriously with all those pictures. Just be who you are.
What would you say if a woman comes up to you and she happens to say, I don't see what the problem is with me having provocative photos. Men like it. I had a past boyfriend who didn't have a problem with it as far as she knows. What would you say then?
You know, I'm curious at how many women after the age of like 30, 40, if they will regret the picture they posted when they were there.
And I know you guys will. We'll see you on the show real soon. I'm coming after you guys. We have some fun on this podcast too, you know. Go ahead, Chris, please.
But yeah, sorry, what's the question again?
No, so what would you... See, this is what happens when we have too much fun around here. So, no, the question is, so what would your advice be? So a woman comes up to you, and... Because the thing is, women don't like to hear this stuff, right? They don't like hearing that, oh, I'm doing something wrong here. What would you tell a woman who comes up to you and gives you, I guess, lip or rebuttal and says, oh, what's the problem with me posting provocative pictures? Like, what's wrong with me posting a bikini pic? What's wrong with me posting pictures of me in exotic places with me and another guy and things like that? My last boyfriend was totally okay with it, again, as far as she knew. What would you say then?
I mean, if you're looking for low quality men, keep doing what you're doing. But if you want somebody high quality that will put, some kind of meaningful transaction in your life where he can take care of you, he can be the provider, he can be, everything that'll build you up as a woman, then don't do it.
So you would say for women, and well said by the way, you would say for women who are just constantly enacting and even invoking social media in certain scenarios, you would say with concrete and by your admission, it will inherit their ability to obtain a man in which they want a commitment from.
Agreed. Yep.
Interesting. Very good. Very good. So how would you tell men now and such, right? If a man comes up to you for advice on how to deal with women who are a little stuck with using their social media, they're like horrendously glued to it, how would you approach the man? Because again, we talked about how we have to have a networking, right? We have a networking, and then we have to keep each other's backs here. What would you say to a man who's having issues dealing with a woman who isn't stopping her pernicious behaviors?
I would say maybe find a better woman.
Find a better woman. I like that. Clear, cut, and dry. Find a better woman, just like that. So, ladies, if it hasn't become crystal clear at this point with everything that we've shown, how long has it been? Like 25 minutes that we've been discussing this topic, or 30 minutes? Somewhere around there.
It's everything.
Yeah. Oh, we'll keep the recording. We'll see. So now I'm going to turn myself a little bit to you guys now. All right? Ladies, you guys are beautiful. Women are beautiful. You guys are valuable. But the fact that you guys are constantly devaluing yourselves, destroying your value, not understanding your value, and lowering it, especially when men, I think some women understand to a degree what men truly want, but then when this feminism starts to kick in, and then all these bad ideologies and alpha males and all these really bad movements come on in, they tend to forget that. Understand, ladies, you might not be the first ones hearing it from the Unplugging or from a different podcast, but you're hearing it now. If you haven't heard of it from the Unplugging, men find no value in women who are posting provocative pictures of themselves on the internet for other men to see. It is the same thing as if you purchase something, whether it's a house or a car, and you're constantly keeping a for sale sign on it, and people are still trying to purchase it and buy it, it's still apparently not yours. That's basically what you're doing when you're posting yourself online. You have a for sale sign on you. So therefore, you are not truly only for your man. You're for other people to look at. You are giving access to other men to see you in skimpy outfits, bikinis, when it's really only your main man who should be seeing that. No one else. It's that simple.
Car probably got like 5 different users.
Oh yeah, we definitely don't want that. So basically that's just how it is. And Ivan, let's see what you got here, my man. So we guys look at them women as recreational use only. Absolutely. We can't take them serious. So and again, we talked about this from one of our other episodes, and Chris, you might have watched this here, but we stated even back in the day where women have very big issues trying to find out if men are going to take them serious or not. Which I find kind of, it's a bit dubious to me, because the thing is that I've said in the last podcast, women are good at reading the room. But when it comes to reading relationships, on if a guy is really taking them serious or not, that's where they have to put on some glasses a little bit. They have to put on their commitment glasses on and say, okay, is this guy going to commit to me or not? Because the thing is, and this is for the ladies, if a man is committing to you, the way he commits to you is he's committing resources only to you and no other woman. He's taking you to places that only he would take you to and no other woman. He would also ensure that he's going to give you the paternity, and he's, of course, giving all his resources to the kids. He's devoting all his time and energy into those kids. He's not finding strange elsewhere and things like that. This is where the commitment comes in. And there's even a study where the more attractive a woman is, he spends more money on the ring.
Nope.
More money on the ring, isn't that something? You know what I mean? And the other things for commitment as well, as I mentioned, to add on to what I mentioned, is if he's going to give you security, if he's protecting you, if he's giving his life for you in dangerous scenarios. That is how men show commitment to women. So I want to be very clear about that. So women have to understand and learn when a man is actually taking them serious. Women have trouble with that. And then they inevitably end up in their recreational use only.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not even a friend of a friend. She is a self-proclaimed sex addict. She goes she has 5 different men in rotation that she goes to their plays, kind of lets anything happen. And then she came to me saying, why can't I find a good guy?
Huh.
Legitimately came to me.
You gotta give her the channel name and.
Oh, man.
Why can't I get a good guy? And when I'm basically homie hopping,
Yeah.
that's basically. You know what?
Term now.
You know what? That's another red flag I forgot to mention. Homie hoppers. Oh my goodness. Definitely a red flag. Homie hoppers. Like, you give her a pair of rabbit ears, that's a homie hopper. That's definitely a homie hopper. But so,
Bro, the worst thing is, like, 3 of them know each other.
3 of them know each other.
They don't know that the other person is.
Oh.
Having intimacy with one of the.
Gross.
Yeah.
It is gross. Oh my god. Absolutely. So it's basically the homie hoppers is basically free orbiters. I would say they hardly have to work for them because, like, let's say a girl comes into our group and we're a group of like a bunch of guys, right? Some girls, but she just happens to come on in. It's free orbiting for her. It's absolutely free orbiting. That's why, like, we talk about this, like, the whole friends, like the platonic friendships. We talk about this, like, it doesn't work. It just doesn't. Like, what we teach men is if you see a girl who you find attractive, you got to make the move. You got to make the first move and plan around and lead the date. But there's never going to be a point, at least from what we've seen, is when a man is trying to be friends with a woman, it just doesn't work out. And the same vice versa, because one is going to have some sort of interest with one another. It might be a little bit higher than the other, but eventually it leads to something.
Oh yeah, like if I make a new friend that I find attractive, I'm gonna think about it.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna, even if I don't say it, I don't show it, I'm going to sexually fantasize about her. And yeah.
You should be a part of one of these studies, actually. It's like, yeah, why don't we put a picture of this girl that you know? Will you fantasize about her? Absolutely, man.
It'll be in my dreams at night.
Of course. And why not? And why not? Because she's attracted to you.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to think about that.
Yeah.
So it's like, when we think about these things, right, it's just the free orbiters. What would your advice be on dealing with women who have orbiters when it comes to men? So if men come up to you and say, she has some guy friends, I just don't know because I don't feel comfortable around them. What would your advice be on how to get them out of that stickiness?
I mean, it's like shit or get off the pot. I think it's either 0 or 100. But no, I mean, you just got to be careful who you surround yourself with, and either cut it off or make a move.
Absolutely. It's and even when it comes to women, if I'm me per se, and this is just me telling the crowd as well, if I see a woman, in my mind, I'm never thinking first, I gotta be her friend.
Yeah.
Guys, come on now.
But a lot of guys do though. They think of, let me be your friend for a while.
Yeah.
Then I'll try to make the move. And
I mean, lucky the butter
6
face,
months,
but,
like, yeah.
A butterface.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're about to close off here with some remarks here. So definitely, like gentlemen, listen, and I think just Chris, you can kind of, both Chris's actually, you can chime in on this one, gentlemen. As we pulled up on our study, men regret missed opportunities. It doesn't even have to be intimacy. It could just be the chance of you asking her out, okay? Because right now we have men still who they're afraid of the rejection. They're afraid of that. It's actually women who are afraid of rejection, I would say. It's not really mentioned to be afraid of that because we have to make the moves. But again, like, women don't want to have spitting images of themselves. So when they see that men are afraid to make the move, not only are they losing attraction, but they're losing arousal. That nice sex drive that kind of comes in with that, right? So gentlemen, if you see a girl you like, if you're confident enough, just make a move on her. It's totally fine. And I'm not saying, be super duper aggressive. Just be assertive and just say, look, I think you're a very attractive woman. I'd like to take you out tonight. I know some places around here. Do you have some availability, or tomorrow somewhere around there? Simple like that. Because when you say things like that, it doesn't have to be the way I said it. But if you approach that you want to have an interest in her, you're taking away the giant question mark that's on her head. Because if you go up to her, oh, hey, like, do you want to do something tonight? I don't know if you want to hang out, let's be friends or whatever. You're leaving her with a giant question mark on her head. She doesn't know what's going on. she might think that you have a little bit of an interest with her, but the fact that you didn't make it so concrete and you weren't overt about it, you're leaving her guessing. The moment you let her know that you are interested in her, she has to make a choice. She has to either say, yes, I like his approach, I like the way he looks, and again, we looked at a study, or we're going to look at some point about the faces and the way he looks, how she reads the room to see if he's high value or not. They will tell. She has to say yes or no, but if you're all weird, awkward, and things like that, she's gonna make a decision off rip just like that, guys. So go, be successful, be driven, make choices. We've pulled up studies also where when men see beautiful women, their testosterone levels increase. Okay, take advantage of that. We're more risk takers as well when it comes to that. Make the moves, guys. It's going to give you experience. It's going to give you more of an idea of what you need to start doing with yourselves. Okay, don't be afraid of that. Carry on. Do you have any closing remarks you want to kind of make on here, Chris?
No, great podcast, great topics. Always a great time, man.
My man, we appreciate you coming on the show again, all right? So definitely, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate you guys coming on. This is episode number 16, the return of Chris P.
Pew, pew, pew.
This is Chris. This is Chris, Leo, and Chris P. The Unplugging, signing out.
A lot of Chris's.
Lots of Chris's here.
Goodbye, guys.
Got it.